Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another one of our lives. We're gonna be talking about exercise today. So a lot of interest in the email that went out this morning. I know many of you are excited about it, and I think for really good reasons, right? Many of you have noticed, like ever since you turned 45, 65, 55. Your body's just not the same anymore. And I know many women that do feel betrayed by their bodies and inability to lose weight, that we suddenly start having belly fat like we never did before. The interesting thing is that we start exercising in a certain way, and the way we were always told, and that is typically a lot of cardio. And things just aren't budging. So, I am not an exercise expert. I've been always an athlete my whole life, but things have also slowed down for me a lot lately. And I thought, what better way to address this for the community, but also selfishly so for me too, than bringing in Debra Atkinson, who is right there with me. Hi there. Hello.
Hi there.
Who really understands exercise for women after 45. I actually really, really admire your work, because there is so much of the programs that are out there and exercise advice that's given to women, or to everybody for that matter, that is just either complete nonsense or is just based on science that was done on men, 20-something-year-old man whose hormonal profile is as different from a menopausal woman as it potentially can be. It's like a total flip-flop. If we have estrogen, they don't have estrogen. They have a lot of testosterone. When you got barely any testosterone, right? And typically the stress levels are different, and the list just goes on. So can I just ask you first, like, why did you decide to do exercise specifically for women 45, 55 and above? Like, why that?
Yeah, well, default, really. I mean, I had to. It wasn't like I woke up one morning and I was called to do this. I was literally called to do it. I had been about 30 years in the fitness industry, and I was raised by older parents. So I was a bit of what I'd call an old soul. Like, even, as a 22-year-old, I had hung out Saturday nights with older adults my entire life. And I was comfortable working with them. So even as a student in the labs, I was always given the faculty and the alumni members. But I'd been working with them for 30 years, not exclusively, but I kept hearing, this is when we started hearing baby boomers. Baby boomers are going to change everything in every industry. But in exercise science, what we were hearing is that they don't get me. My doctor just said, well, welcome to menopause. That's what happens. And that's why your weight is happening, but no answers about what to do about it. And they were feeling betrayed, by their physician and people they've trusted. And then feeling like select trainers or fitness programs they've done were not serving them anymore. Yeah. So honestly, when I quit my job, I quit to work with trainers and help them build their businesses and understand how not to be sleazy and salesy, but to help people. And I quickly realized that I can't do that if I'm not still actually actively doing it myself. I will become irrelevant. And I said, okay, well, I've got to pick my niche now. It's time to narrow it. And that's who I picked. Yeah. And ironically, that group has grown tremendously, far faster than the fitness professionals.
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, we obviously know each other from many circles. Yeah. So I know you in person, and you are as gorgeous as you look. And you used to live just up the road from me, right? And
I know, right?
We were neighbors, and we did go for a few hikes together. And I can always barely keep up with you. And you were just like, you're a machine. So I want to just, for those of you who are joining us just now, we are going to be talking about really the right kind of exercise for women 45, 55 and above. With Debra, I'm going to introduce her in just a second, like in terms of her credentials, because I want you to know, like, this is not just someone who, picked up a couple of dumbbells and developed a program. She's actually trained and qualified in this, but also we're going to be talking about the program that's starting soon, and we've got some very special offers for our Hormones Balance community. The program is called Stronger, and Fine and was it Tone and Define? Refine?
Tone and Define. Tone
Tone
and
and
Define.
Define, yeah. Stronger is a program. I'm going to be talking about how to join that in just a second. So I want to just introduce Debra, because I think that's a really interesting profile that you've got. And I didn't, until I met you, I never really realized that there is a specialty area like this. So Debra has earned both her BS and MS in exercise science and exercise and sports psychology, respectively, from Iowa State University, where she later served as a senior lecturer for 15 years. She taught core courses on kinesiology majors that prepare students for leadership roles in fitness, and continue to supervise internship for kinesiology majors after she left the classroom. She's also a medical exercise specialist. And so really there is so few, if any, programs that are out there for women, specifically our age. One of the things that I would love for you guys to start posting and is tell us, what are your struggles with exercise right now that you're experiencing? And I think COVID has brought on a totally new dimension of challenges, I find, because many of us are just stopped going to the gym. So suddenly you have to become a DIYer. So, and some people are just not DIYers. And so there is a whole new paradigm of that as well. Debra, let's just talk a little bit about, why is it that a woman who used to be, let's say, a runner, right, until she hits the 45, 55 point, she was a runner, she will do yoga, and she will look fantastic, right, full of energy, looking really trim, looking healthy, and then she hits the 45, 55 mark, and then suddenly it just isn't working anymore. She runs even more miles, isn't body weight is putting on, and then she's got like this pouch in front too, which was like, her diet hasn't changed. She's even exercising more now, right? Because it's like, well, logically, what's going on in the body of a woman like that?
Well, so many things, actually. So declining estrogen, is a big one. So we start that sharper decline there, which makes us more susceptible to the negative effects of stress. So estrogen going down, cortisol going up. And that means that what you used to do, that used to be, okay, I'm able to manage that amount of stress is okay for me. And even I'm more resilient when I do it. So those of you who love that kind of endurance exercise, you know who I am, right? And talking to you, I'm also that girl. I have to pull back now. But those two things, plus a decline in testosterone, we are just not going to respond the way we did. And if you haven't changed your diet, I think this complaint I hear a lot. So tell me if you've said this. Sorry, haven't yelled at enough people yet this morning. But tell me if you've said this or thought this, like, I haven't changed a thing. I'm exercising the same way and I'm eating the same way and I'm not getting the same results, and this, in fact, the opposite. But that statement in itself is the answer. Really, that question is the answer. So you don't have the same hormone profile you had when it did work, and yet you're trying to do the same thing, and that's not going to work. But there's hope. So it's changing the strategy and what you're doing that will apply. What we need to do is maintain that muscle. And unfortunately, you can't outrun or pick your mode. You can't out Zumba or out bicycle your muscle loss. So we've got to be doing strength training in order to hang on to that lean muscle mass. That estrogen is a stimulus for maintaining it. Now we're losing that. We have to find, where's our next stimulus? How are we going to pick up the slack where estrogen left off?
So why strength training?
Because it is such a great stimulator. So something called muscle.
Of what? To tell us more about stimulates what?
Yeah. Of muscle. And it is something called muscle protein stimulus. So we have that, and we have it naturally through the estrogen or the estrogen as it's higher. During our reproductive years, we've got it. And when we don't have that stimulus, we need it through two things. We can do that through making sure we have adequate protein intake. So per meal, if you're getting an adequate hit of protein, that will actually bump your muscle protein synthesis. And what we mean by that is that the food that you take in, the protein that you eat, goes to the use of your muscles and maintaining it and or growing it. And resistance training is the only other exercise that will do that. So resistance training, protein independently, but then you put them together, now you have a gold standard, much easier. And the other thing that causes the loss of the muscle and why we're not having such a great result from doing things like running or endurance exercises, generally we're not sleeping as well. For most women after 45, at some point, you'll go through at least a phase where sleep isn't as good. That's not going to help your lean muscle tissue because of growth hormone and testosterone that we are producing, even it's lesser, is produced in deep cycles of sleep. So if you're getting interrupted with hot flashes or a snoring partner or an old dog or all of the above, get your own bedroom, right? I mean, you got to move out. Yeah. So muscle protein synthesis is the key to things, and that's what we're after by getting either adequate protein or resistance training or the gold, putting them both together.
Doesn't exercise also improve the insulin sensitivity?
Absolutely.
Right. So it can help with women with perimenopausal, menopausal, but also women with hot flashes.
Yep, absolutely. And the combination, so you talked about belly fat and why am I getting that, even though I'm doing all the right things? So insulin plus cortisol team up together and deposit fat in the belly. That's where they put it. It relocates. Cortisol can make baby fat cells mature to bigger fat cells, can create fat cells where there weren't fat cells. I mean, all kinds of superhero things we don't love. Yeah.
What about cellulite? Let's talk about cellulite.
Yeah.
Where does it come from? Why is it that, we do more running when we have cellulite and then do blasting and all sorts of stuff, right? And
yeah, right.
That doesn't work.
You don't have one in the closet, do you? Do you have one of those? Okay. So it has to do, comes back to estrogen again, because estrogen declines actually changed our skin. So, I mean, the truth is we all had that fat under the skin and it was there. We've got subcutaneous, just under the skin fat. All of us do. But why does it become looking like a mattress, all of a sudden, like yesterday that wasn't there and today it is? And you're going to probably fluctuate and even have good days and bad days. I mean, that can happen based on food you eat, and retaining your water may make it more visible. But as your skin gets thinner, it becomes easier to see that. And we have these little, fascia connectors. So we have muscle, we have fascia, and that's kind of like a hairnet. If you'll imagine here's the body and you see all the muscle across it. If we throw a hairnet on top of it, that's kind of the image of what fascia is. We hear that term a lot. We hear in massage and we myofascial release with those foam rollers that hurt like, but they do really good. That it needs hydration, right? So we tend to, females have a different pattern of fascia than do men. We're at a disadvantage again. So it's why we get cellulite and see it so much more visibly, and they don't, or it's much more rare, less common. So we tend to, it's like scar tissue. So when it gets all bound up and needs hydration, needs stimulus, we tend to then see those little mattressy pieces of cottage cheese
orange peel.
Right. We've got these little strings up and down on the surface of your skin where the fascia lies, connecting it. But in between, there are fewer and fewer fibers. So we can see that the dimples that are no longer cute and adorable, right?
I have found it with cellulite, really what helps diet-wise is to reduce your sugar, that's for sure, and consumption, alcohol included. Now, would strength training help cellulite?
Definitely. There's actually a cellulite protocol. So the challenge is for most of us, our first objection to strength training or exercise is time. So the protocol that you'd want to follow if you really wanted support with cellulite specifically would be, let's say you've got this cellulite here, right? Just to pull something out. We would want to do a warm up prior to our strength training that was specific to upper body. So maybe it's boxing, or specifically swimming or rowing that are very heavily upper body oriented. We want to get the blood flow in there. Then we do strength training for that area specifically, more blood flow, more oxygen delivery. And then after the strength training session, we would do a higher intensity interval training with boxing specific upper body. But then we would do that myofascial release either on a foam roller or using like a rolling pin, the stick kind of a tool, and then stretch. So it's kind of ironing out the areas. But it's really about hydration and oxygen.
And do you teach all of that in your Stronger program?
I teach all that in one of our Stronger programs. Our Stronger Tone and Define is not specifically cellulite oriented. Yeah. However, if you're not strength training now, you will see improvements in your cellulite just by starting and not turning your world upside down. But let's do this one step and then consciously think about, how is my diet? Am I helping myself? Right. Yeah. And be sure that we're well hydrated, reducing sugars. And, so after you've had some wine, the next couple of days, you may notice that, okay, this is having a negative result, and that can change things. So just awareness will really help.
You guys, we are talking about Debra's program called Stronger. It's starting on July 1st. We have something very special for our Hormones Balance community until the 16th. So it's opening up today. We are recording this on the 9th of June. If you're doing this on replay, you have time until the 16th to take advantage of the early bird price, and that's only $97 for the whole program. Let's talk a little bit about the program. And Brittany, if you could post the link to where folks can check out the program. And so, Debra, give us a little bit of an overview of what to expect. And by the way, before I say this, I am highly distraught with the fact that this is really, really soft for me, because I still am to some degree an athlete. I always feel like an athlete. And
once an athlete, always an athlete.
Always an athlete, I think so. And then when you start seeing cellulite on my thighs, and I'm just like, okay, well, this has to go. And I don't feel strong anymore, and I don't like that. And for those of you who've done strength training, you know that strong actually feels good. Strong feels sexy. In fact, I think I'm stealing this from Nike commercial where they said, strong is the new sexy. It's not the skinny, but they say strong is the new sexy. Yep. And I think, even more so for women 45 and above. So give us an overview of what the program entices and how long is it for?
I would love to. And I want to add to what you just said. The saying that I love to use is that strong does things skinny doesn't even dream about. Chasing skinny, you never get away from it. You're still always running for fear that you'll gain it back. And once you're strong, here's the truth. I'm a pimp, really. I'm pushing this because I hope you become codependent, that you join for the tone, the lack of cellulite, the whatever, but you will stay because of the way it makes you feel more confident inside. Yeah. That's the most important.
Yeah.
And then you really change things. So,
okay, guys, I'll just say, we will come to your questions. I know there's a lot of questions that poured in. We will get to it right after this. So let's do the program talk first, and then we'll jump in to Q&A.
Yes. And I may answer a couple of those questions while we're discussing it. So the Stronger Tone and Define program that's open it's a 12-week program. I do that on purpose because you and I together in 12 weeks can actually see significant change. 4 weeks goes by so quickly, and it's really hard to see long-term change and to get you committed. But when you break that down, we have just 24 workouts, just 2 a week is all I'm asking you to do. And that's based on research as well on postmenopausal women. That's the sweet spot. When you do 2, you have energy, strength, and endurance to do life better. And there is greater energy expenditure for those women who do twice a week than who do 3 times a week. So
Hmm.
it's a huge advantage. And people say, I can do this. This is not crazy, insane, and extreme.
How long are the workouts?
Most of the workouts are around 35 to 40 minutes. That's on average. There are some that are shorter, some just
Okay.
minutes longer, but very
Okay.
doable. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So individually, there is one unique workout every week. So you'll do it twice. The first time you do it, you're first dating, you're a little naive, you're going through it, you're realizing, what weight do I do? You're experimenting. Second time, now you've got a better idea. You've also got a little base of, how did it feel last time? So you can do a little comparison. By next week, though, you're not bored because you're doing a different workout.
Very nice.
Yep.
So what are the benefits that women experience like when they complete your programs? Like 12 weeks is just 3 months. It should be a significant changes that women should see by then if they follow. What will that be?
Yeah, well, very recently. So I go through this every time, and so ironically, we generally have one group finishing up while another group is coming on. So in this most recent group, at week 3, people are, and I'm starting there, and then I'm going to go to later, but I'm going to come back to 4 days and let you know what somebody said after 4 days. So week 3, women were already saying, I actually see definition in my arms. My
But
biceps are.
that's 6 week
Yes,
workouts.
you're right.
3 weeks until 6
Yep.
workouts.
Yep.
Okay.
My biceps are coming along nicely. Now she said, I'm feeling energy. I don't see a lot of change elsewhere, but I have hope now, So just to play it out and be really real, after week 7, several women were chiming in and saying, number one, this is miraculous that I am still doing this, but twice a week is so doable. I have never exercised this consistently in my life. And this is women in their 50s saying it. So there's a big one. And then a woman who is thought she was the senior in the group this time. She said, based on calculations, I think I'm the oldest woman here. So I have to say this. At one point, I was an athlete. I even was in bodybuilding in my 20s and 30s, but I have not felt like that person for a very long time. And
Yeah.
I now feel stronger. I feel as if I can do this. And that woman shared with me the first week of March that her husband had been ill, not COVID related, but he passed away. Before he died, one of the very last things he said to her, one of the very last, was, don't you stop. You keep exercising with Flipping 50 because I know what a difference it's made in your life. I have chills saying that to you, but she shared it with me in a text. Yeah. I mean, that just
Yeah.
made it all worthwhile, right? So back to 4 days. So 4 days, which is really one workout, because I don't want anybody doing 2 that close together. You spread them out so that you rest and you recover. But after 4 days, a woman said, I feel like I'm already sleeping better. Maybe it's mindset, but I'm already noticing I feel better for having started moving
I'm
in a
super
more
excited.
intentional way.
I'm going in a botanical camp, so I'm actually going to be only back on the 9th of July. So I'm going to be 9 days late, but I'm definitely going to be joining. And tell us, what do we need in terms of equipment? Like, what do we need to have at home to start the program?
Yep. So we keep it very basic. So for those of you who've done programs before that are variety for variety's sake, you won't see a lot of that. And I promise you, you will never, ever, 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 ever do a burpee with Debra at Flipping 50. Okay. So if you're looking for burpees, you'll be disappointed. But you need 3 sets of dumbbells to get started. And I will tell you this, that at some point you're going to graduate and have to go get another set. And you won't feel this is a disadvantage or a nuisance. You'll be thrilled because it's evidence you're already stronger. But by 3 sets of dumbbells, what you want is something that feels light to you, something that feels moderate to you, and something that feels heavy. Now, you're going to be doing some shoulder work, not a lot of shoulder exercise because that's a slightly smaller muscle group, but you'll be doing chest press and bent over rows. You'll be holding weights as you're doing squats, and you're going to need to kind of dance the first couple of weeks with your weights to feel like, what does take me to temporary fatigue, where the last one I can do is, feeling like, can I really do that? Or am I going to reach fatigue before Debra does? But the number of repetitions we're doing in this program is about 20. So
Mhm.
that's not a low number, meaning you're not going to use a significantly heavy weight. So those of you who fear bulking up, this is definitely your protocol, because that woman who feels like they're probably more of a mesomorph, easily muscular, and respond very well. First of all, you might not now as much as you did at one point, but we're going to do a higher repetition range. So it's great for starting or restarting, or those of us who, I'm in that boat too. If I use heavy weights, I can see that definition really quickly. So a little higher repetition range is great for us to still reach fatigue, still get the muscle fatigue that causes lean muscle mass and metabolism without risking the bulk. And for those of you who are a little discouraged, I've done this maybe once and I've gotten injured. Doing a lower weight to that fatigue level helps decrease the risk. And we always want to be doing this risk reward. And I never will put reward before the risk. There's always a safer way to do it.
I just want to call out this one comment we got saying, I'm crying because my husband just passed on May 27th. And he told me to continue to look after me.
Oh, feeling you. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. All right. Let's dive into questions. And so this is a good one. Letty saying, I tend to bulk up when lifting weights. Don't like it very much. What do you suggest? I think you kind of said, right?
Yep. Letty, I had you in mind when I was answering that. And literally, you want to play a little bit, start light, keep it light, but you do want to reach that point of muscular fatigue. And I will tell you why many of us who might be, over 45, but definitely even over 55, this is true of when we learned to lift weights, we were most commonly taught 3 sets of 10 repetitions. Ladies, I'm here to tell you that's a bulk building protocol. Bodybuilders use it to build bulk. Now, again, we don't have that hormone profile anymore that we had when we were younger. So you might be surprised that now that doesn't have the same effect on you, but it's not a good starting point anyway. So I also want to remind you that when we started, long ago, and we were doing that kind of strength training, we also were probably eating a lot more carbs than most of us do. Less intelligent maybe about our choices of good carbohydrates versus too many of the wrong kinds of carbohydrates. So again, that'll also help you avoid bulk.
Yeah. And Diana is asking, is the program also suitable for 42-year-old?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Vivian is saying, I have broken tailbone. What exercise can I do?
Vivi, and I hope I'm getting your name right, but first of all, if you are under the care of a physician who's seen that, diagnosed it, did an X-ray or MRI, I would always defer to your allied health professional first, and then ask, what limitations have you got? So I would think, anything where we're going to have you sitting, foam rolling for your bum, it would not be something we'd want you to do, clearly. But I don't know if you've got other factors going on. So, squats and lunges may or may not be appropriate for you right now, but I would check with our allied health care professional first and then come back if you've got another question.
This one. Can someone with a complete hysterectomy in the ovaries benefit from your program?
Absolutely. We all need to focus.
Even more so than anyone else, because you tend to, unless you are on identical hormones, you tend to be low on estrogen because you have no ovaries. Although your adrenals and your fat actually produces some estrogen too. Is this okay for menopausal joint pain?
So I'm curious about.
Can I just say something? So just because you enter menopause, it doesn't immediately equate with joint pain. So I just want to be very clear on that. Joint pain can come from a lot of different factors, inflammatory factors such as diet. It could be that you are low on, for example, I had a lot of joint pain. Turned out that vitamin C was my issue, and I upped it, and it's all gone. It could be some food sensitivity to, for example, gluten. A lot of women who have joint pain also can come from certain foods like nightshade vegetables, so like tomatoes, potatoes, can be highly inflammatory in the joints. So let's not equate menopause immediately with the joint pain. So I just want to clarify that, because you can be in your 30s and 20s and have joint pain. So addressing that, I think, is a separate topic altogether. But what are your thoughts on when somebody does have joint pain, and it kind of depends on also whether it's right and whether she can actually lift the weights and stuff like that. But what are your thoughts, Debra?
Yeah, agree with you on everything you've said so far. So where there's joint pain, I would always caution, starting a program intended for a group. You may need to get to the bottom of what literally is causing that pain, what makes it worse, what makes it better, and know the answers to that, what kind of daily activities you can do and what limitations you have. Those answers would be, start with that before you join a program, because we wouldn't want to aggravate something that should be handled first.
Mm-hmm. What about if you have histamine issues?
So, Magdalena, I'm going to defer to you. Do you want to chime in a little bit on that first? Yeah,
I do. So histamine is, first of all, you can manage histamine a lot through a lot of diet changes. I do suggest for you to follow Mast Cell 360, Beth O'Hara, Dr. Beth O'Hara, or Healing Histamine. They have wonderful resources on Facebook and on their websites, how to lower histamine. In the context of exercise, Debra, typically when histamine flares up here is when we do something that is overly stressful for the body. So women who have a histamine issue, yeah, sure. I mean, they can lay off alcohol and fermented foods and avocados and things like that that are high in histamine. But then, the histamine bucket still can get filled up by things like stress, lack of sleep, environmental toxins, right? So
gotcha.
When I work, when my colleagues who do histamine will always say that stressful exercise can also create a flare up and add on to the histamine bucket, if you will.
Yep.
So I guess the question here really for you is how much stress can your program add to somebody who's already got a high histamine issue?
Yeah. So I think what we're talking about is the tipping point. So
Yes.
whether Raquel, I think if that's correct, really, I think you've got to look at where you are. So if you're stable, you've got a histamine issue, but it's not flaring and you have your stress under control. Exercise of any kind is stress, but this program is not an extreme stressor. It's meant to be, a good high quality workout, but twice with lots of recovery time in between. And anybody starting a program, you want to start light with your weight and listen to what's the feedback and the data that you get from your body following that activity, and progress slightly slower with your weight increases. So I think hopefully that gives you a starting point. Where are you now? And you want to be in a healthy, I'm feeling good spot, ready for a little bit more and feeling you're there. And maybe in questioning it, that might be your answer if you feel like you should ask first.
Good one. Paola is asking, what about if I have high testosterone, high estrogen, and low progesterone?
Man, we need sleep.
Let me just take the first. So high testosterone typically happens in women when you have high blood sugar levels. So just starting off with that. And when your sugar levels are high, then your 6-binding globulin comes down. And so you have a lot more testosterone floating around, but it's not a good kind of testosterone. It's a testosterone in women that gives you facial hair, a lot of very oily skin, hair on your nipples, hair loss in front here. So not the kind of testosterone that we actually want. And because we do need to have a little bit of testosterone, but too much of it so really the issue here is, changing your diet, regulating your blood sugar levels. But here's the thing. I mean, that's what we talked about right at the beginning of this video, right? Debra, that when you have high blood sugar levels, actually strength training is one of the exercises that's recommended for people with pre-diabetes and diabetes and insulin resistance, you guys. And there's a reason for that, because your body just becomes a little more sensitive to insulin. So when insulin is what sweeps up all the blood sugar levels in your blood and put that into the cells. And so when you exercise, you're making the availability of the cells a lot more open to insulin coming in. So it's definitely going to help you with high testosterone, potentially lower that. High estrogen is, it's all relative. What is high estrogen, right? Because as you know, from estrogen dominance, and Paula, I remember seeing your name. So if you follow this work for a while, estrogen dominance is the issue is not the high estrogen, but the issue is how you break down those estrogens, right? And so, so that is the more of the issue. What else would you want to add to this, Debra?
I would say that, regardless, I think, unless you're flat on your back, and you're in adrenal fatigue, every woman has some kind of a hormonal balance that's slightly unique to her, but it doesn't change the fact that the right kind of positive exercise is really still warranted. And if it is helping you also negate stress because of all the other physical benefits you already mentioned, the helping you stabilize blood sugars, increasing your insulin sensitivity, it will be a benefit. So we're not suggesting that this is anywhere near a 90-day extreme boot camp where you're going to be, picking yourself up off the floor after each. You should have more energy on the days you work out than the days you don't. You should feel good. And so, yeah.
I will share with you, Debra, that, I've got a Peloton. Not the biggest fan of it. I know there's a big craze about Peloton craze out there. Not the biggest fan. And I'm also, but I do like the bike thing. Like sometimes, once, twice a week doing the 30-minute ride. I think it's kind of cool. I enjoy that. However, I am part of a number of different Facebook groups, and it is kind of heartbreaking to see how, on one hand, it's wonderful that there's a sense of community and women really encourage each other, but there is also this tendency to ask people to push themselves. Get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and push yourself. And this is like somebody who's got a long commute and is going to come back, and she's got 3 young children and a full-time job, and she's going to cook and clean because the husband is not interested in chiming in, right? And they're like, push yourself. And the thing is that I'm seeing is that there's a lot of women who do this sort of routine. They do get up at 4. They do this whole thing that I mentioned. And they come back and they report and they say, you know what? Like, I'm putting on weight. They get bigger instead of, and so then a lot of women go and then say, well, because you've put on muscle. And that's a plausible one explanation. But then she's actually like showing her pictures, and she is literally swollen.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about over exercising and like why this whole thing, the whole thing run more?
Yes.
more?
I'm an expert. Yes. Well, yeah. So if you remember my story, so in 2019, so everybody remembers right back before the pandemic, I committed in December of 2018 to my fittest year. Had been a little while, but I was going to do an Ironman in November of 2019. So I'm already committed. I've spent my money. I've spent my money on a coach. I'm, talking about it. I was going to track my whole process, but a lot of major life stressors that year, exposed to mold and illnesses that were just stringing along in the spring. Financial changes in my business, personal changes, had to move very quickly to get out of that mold and didn't really want to do that.
I remember that house. That was terrible. I could feel it. I could feel it in my lungs.
I know, right?
House. Yeah.
Yeah. You walked in, you were there 5 seconds and you said, I'll know.
In your
and
basement.
you did, get me out of here. Yes.
Yeah.
So so that year, and no triathlete or Ironman ever wants to gain weight training, because moving your body through space for a long time, you want it to be lighter. I gained 10 pounds plus probably that year. And it was all cortisol. Well, I call it my cortisol weight gain. And there's no other way to describe it, but literally that's what it was. I proved it's not about more exercise, it's not about pushing. And I think that's what we need to discuss. So this week I've been talking everywhere about recovery. And that is as big a part of this program as is the exercise. So I'll be working with you on between the ears, and it is about somebody's asking, yes, you choose. So you have access to the videos and you choose to do them at your convenience wherever you are in the world. Absolutely. But the best workout any day is the workout you have planned today. So some days that might be a challenging workout, but the next day that could be your recovery walk or yoga. So the best workout is a good workout. A good workout, we've all been too quick to say that if it was hard, if I'm wringing myself out afterward, that's a good workout. But it's really the one that makes yesterday's workout better and tomorrow's better.
I want to ask you, like, if we exercise and you got muscle ache the following day, does it mean I did great and I pushed myself, or does it mean no, I overdid it and I should scale back and do it slower? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, great question. So there's a probably a sliding scale in which to answer that. So if you can say, I'm aware of some muscles that maybe needed a wake-up call and have been in absentee for a little while, and they just got a little exercise. And it's kind of a comfortable, oh, I know I did something I haven't done for a long time. That's an okay thing. What's not okay is if you feel like literally you going up and down stairs is inconvenient and it hurts, or sitting on the toilet and standing from the toilet hurts, and you're feeling like you've done a tremendous muscle damage. So every exercise, even moderate exercise, causes micro tearing of the muscle, and we recover between exercise that's more recovery based, and then it heals not just to the level it was, but it heals over and above. It kind of says, okay, we're going to get this stressor thrown at us again. We're going to build up just a little bit more. That's what strength is all about, getting more endurance, more strength, more stamina. So a little bit of soreness, yes. So much that you're uncomfortable, can't sit down, can't stand up, can't lift your fork. That's too much. That's muscle damage.
Okay, got it. Jenny's got a good question here. What are the weight sets ideally to be used? I have 8 pounds. Should I get 15 sets, 20 to build up?
Yeah, great question. Okay, and it's a tricky answer, so let me answer it as well as I can. So 8 pounds, what I would say is probably you're going to want something even a little bit lighter for those days when you're doing shoulder exercises. These shoulder exercises or the shoulder muscles are small ones, and we don't want to do a lot of damage to those. So 3s, 5s for your shoulders and doing some of those things, or sequence is everything, ladies. So if we do an exercise for biceps or triceps after we've done some chest and some rows, the fatigue level that you feel with a lighter weight may surprise you, but it will be there. So you want options so that we're not ever going to be doing the same thing every day in the same sequence. So lightweight might be 3s or 5s, depending on who you are. And depending on that, your moderate might be then 5 or 8 or even 10. And
this is pounds, right? It's all pounds.
In pounds. Yes, it is.
Great for those of you who are in Europe, please don't think it's kilograms. It's just
okay, right.
Right.
There's a little mindset thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And heavier would probably be somewhere between 15, 20, and if you've been lifting really a lot, 25 is kind of heavy, but you should be able to row that by the time we're done, potentially. I have a kettlebell. I use that for holding on to when I'm doing squats. That's totally an extra, and it's for convenience. You could hold dumbbells, however, when you're doing it. So I would buy your minimal first, figure out how am I doing, and then dance the dance a little bit and move on. And when you're ready, you'll graduate.
Awesome. We have a question from Linda. Will strength training help with my water retention?
Absolutely. Any exercise is going to help with that because you're increasing your circulation.
Right.
And potentially the warmer you get, you're also going to be sweating a little bit. Sweating is also good for water retention. And your body is just going to become more efficient overall. So
Yeah.
we're not just talking while you're exercising or the days that you do, but even between, you should notice a change.
I also just want to add to this, Linda, I highly suggest for you also to look into estrogen dominance, and estrogen tends to hold on to water. So like one of the things that I used to have is like I couldn't take my rings off, or I couldn't take my shoes off or put my shoes on because my feet were so swollen. And so estrogen holds on to water, progesterone purges it. So that's another thing to consider as well in tandem. Elizabeth is saying, what are the nutritional recommendations during the program? Can we do a cleanse during the program?
Without knowing what you mean by cleanse, that one's a little bit hard, but my recommendation is this. So number one, there will be a quick start guide that you'll get with the program. If you do nothing else, but you just change and start strength training or strength training consistently, if you haven't been, you will see change. If you decide I'm going to add some nutritional changes to that, you'll potentially get better results. But don't do a January 1st mistake and turn your world upside down. Choose one layer, master that, feel good about it, make it a part of your habit, like brushing your teeth, and then do the next thing.
Yeah.
The biggest nutritional recommendation I would recommend if you're doing strength training is making sure you have adequate protein spread in 3 meals throughout the day. And that comes from just high quality protein, whether that's animal or you're plant-based. And, Magdalena and I have different thoughts on where that comes from, but actually I'm swinging more over to your side. So that's a good thing too. But just making sure that it's all throughout your day, not just at one space. So there's your start and your easy answer.
Do we really have to add 10,000 steps to our daily routine?
You didn't hear that from me, so maybe you're just asking as a general rule.
I think that's just a health recommendation, probably.
Yes, right.
PSA.
Right.
Yeah.
So, just in comment to that. So what I would recommend is track it first. What are you doing on average? And then what changes or transformation do you wish were true of you that aren't right now? And see if increasing those steps is even a match for what you want to do. So I think it depends on what you do. People with an active lifestyle who maybe have an active job more so than they think, even if it's not getting in all your steps, I wouldn't want to have you walk 10,000 steps in addition to that, because it'd be throwing you under the bus. Like, we've got to factor in some days life is stress. So I don't know that across the board everyone should get 10,000, but we should all move every day. We should move, not necessarily exercise, but we should all move and have a significant amount of movement in our day.
I mean, that's one of the powerful things that you have done with your talk, your TED talk. And, and that's what you talk about, really. It's about moving your body. And I really like that a lot, is that over exercising and just moving your body, just as being part of the protocol. Janet is saying, is there any supplement that will help you with your workout, like amino acids, perhaps?
Yeah, so we're kind of really going in the weeds here. So I want to say that. So anybody who's feeling like, what did she just say? Just let that one go. But so if you're already on top of it, if you know where you are and you already have those, I would always say food first. Let's do food first. Let's have whole food and spread your meals 3 times throughout the day. adequate hit of protein and high quality. And then look at what kind of results are you getting. So there is some proof that women who are in midlife and menopause can benefit from the addition of amino acids, specifically those who are trying to get their protein from plant-based sources to help that essential amino acid profile. So it's a great question and it deserves some looking into, but it's probably where are you on that continuum? So one thing at a time and then walk yourself down that continuum.
I like that, one thing at a time, because then you don't know whether it's the amino acids that helped or was it the workout that helped, right?
Exactly.
I think let's just take the last one. Lena is saying exercising every day but not losing much weight. Hallelujah, sister. That's why Debra is here.
So true. So, and without digging into that a little bit, like what kind of exercise, and it may be that somebody here needs to hear this, and I'm not sure based on your situation, Lena, it may not be you that needs to hear this, but rest and recovery between exercise sessions is one of the most underused components of fitness. We sometimes forget that. So if you'll remember this, the exercise gives the opportunity for fitness, but the fitness actually happens in the recovery between exercise. So you want to make sure that your week is full of, this is a challenging exercise day. This is a relaxing day, a recovery day. This is recovery movement. And you've got a wide variety complementing.
Debra, I just pulled out your TED Talk, and it's on YouTube, you guys. And so you can just, in case you're missing this, then just Google Debra's name, Debra Atkinson, and then TED Talk, and it will pop out right there. So good talking to you.
So good talking to you. I miss you.
Now I'm going to go into some crunches.
Oh, no, you're not. So we don't do crunches. And she said that just to get under my skin. I know she did.
I just want to make you laugh. Last thing, just on that point, is that I remember one of the revelations, at least for me, and did you guys know this? Because this is, I think it's kind of cool, is just learning from you, and I think it was from my good friend Ari Witten, who said that if you want to lose weight on your belly, you don't just go and do just belly exercises to lose the weight on the belly. And I was just like,
strength train. Yeah.
So is that true?
Absolutely true. So it's not going to help. And, ironically,
people are asking why
I know because you and I only have so many forward flexions in our spine. So every crunch and sit up you do is moving you forward closer and closer to an injury. Lumbar disc issues are very, very common. And here's the problem. Somebody may say, okay, but I do sit-ups every day. I don't have any problem. You will not feel pain until it's too late. You've ruptured it. And
you know what? Ever since you said that, every time I go and pick up something from the floor, instead of just like bending over, I do like a squat. I squat down to pick up my dog's balls before I fill them up, and I'm just like, okay, great, one squat down for the day. So let's just do one last one, because I think that's a good one. Paulette's asking, will you give ideas for our recovery days?
Absolutely. So in your quick start guide, I actually tell you, here's how you would plan this. So your workouts and your recovery, and I'll jump into your Facebook group and we'll be actually talking about here's what a week would look like if you want only strength training, if you want all the things. So, and back to just the belly fat. How do you get rid of belly fat? You increase your metabolism by working your major muscle groups. And your core is involved in every lift that you do. It's that kind of flattening and bracing that really flattens the belly the way we want it to. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, you guys. So the program is starting on July 1st. I'm going to be joining it as well. You didn't talk much about the Facebook group, but you have a Facebook group.
There's a Facebook group. Yep.
And I'm assuming that, some women are like to have a buddy, right? Somebody to work out with. Do you see them like partnering up on their Facebook group and say like, let's do this together and keep each other accountable? And
yeah, definitely. We've got a few who do that. We've got some who, if you're one of those that I prefer to sit in the corner and listen and watch everybody else's questions, you can do that too. So there's no pressure. We don't necessarily match you up, but we find organically that it happens. And you're in that group with women who are just like you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Always good talking
Thanks
to
for
you.
having me. Thanks for all the great questions for all of you who are here and attending.
Good questions, you guys. And if you're watching this on replay, just pop your question if there's something we haven't answered here yet. And then we'll forward that over to Debra, and hopefully we'll get that answered. And so I hope to see some of you on the 1st of July, especially for those of you who are struggling with. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to be in Colorado on like the week of the 24th of September. So I just may have to pop in and look at your progress. Did you just snort?
I think I did.
Perfect.
Oh. All right, everyone. Take care, and hope to see some of you on the whole workout thing before I embarrass myself any further.